Call 1-800-CAR-RENT now to lock in great spring. But hurry, because as they say in the saving business, the end is near. Call National Car Rental at 1-800-CAR-RENT. Save the money.
First of all, I apologize for keeping you all waiting. You see, I had this problem with the copier, and the pages kept jamming, and I couldn't fix it.
Problem with paper jams?
Trying to fix it, and then jammed again, and, well...
Get Hammermill. The works. Want frosting that tastes like you made it, but you don't have to? You want Duncan Hines Homestyle frosting. Our chocolate has only real chocolate flavor. Our vanilla only real vanilla, like homemade. Duncan Hines, hot stuff.
10 cents may not look like much to you, but sign up for Sprint Cents Long Distance now, and you'll be
Suddenly, it all makes sense. I work all day, so at 10 cents a minute nights and weekends, I can give myself the green light to talk.
Call now and you'll get an extra 200 minutes free.
Of course, I could pay more nights and weekends, but that wouldn't make sense.
To me, the biggest bonus is I get 10% back.
That's cool. With Sprint Cents, it all makes sense. See for yourself. Call now, 1-800-418-6060.
Welcome back. No one would deny that parents' responsibility to protect his or her kids. But our next guests say censoring what's on the internet isn't the way to do it. We're joined now from Denver by the Fagan, Barry, Michelle, and their two kids, Max and Erica. Barry and Michelle Fagan are the founders of a group called Families Against Internet Censorship. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Hi.
Can you tell us first off why you are against censorship on the net?
Well, we're against government censorship on the internet specifically. We think it's intrusive. We think that it's a parent's ability, privilege, and right to monitor what children see on the internet. This is something that we think government and Congress in particular is simply incapable of doing properly.
So how do you monitor your kids, Michelle, from seeing the wrong things on the net?
Well, the same way that I monitor them in everyday life. I watch what they do. Our computer's in a public part of our house. This is the sites that they're visiting. I've already visited and bookmarked for them. And frankly, it's just the same as any other kind of parenting that you do. You take care of your kids in the real world, and you take care of your kids in the virtual world.
Have you ever come across an instance where your kids shouldn't see something, what they call smut on the net?
No.
No, never. It amazes me the people who are supporting this kind of legislation keep trotting out the same examples over and over and over and over again. But the reality is, for people who are actually on the net, coming across these sites doesn't happen accidentally, and it doesn't happen without going out looking for it.
What people have to realize is the way the net is interactive. It's not passive. You don't sit there and things come at you. You have to go out and look. People need to recognize that. That's very important to understand the nature of the net and how to use the net effectively.
It's nice to know that you monitor your kids at home when they're using computers, but computers are available in libraries, at schools, and other places. How do you monitor them at those computers?
That's very true, and I think that's a very important issue. One possibility would be you can install blocking software at terminals and say these terminals are for small children only. You can have other terminals that say these are for young adults, and you can have other terminals that say these are adults only. So there's lots of different ways to do it. We think that a flexible approach is much more appropriate than the one-size-fits-all approach that was adopted, say, by the Boston Public Library.
Michelle, there's a lot of software out there to protect kids from logging on to the wrong site, something called, for instance, Net Nanny. What do you think of those software programs?
Well, I know that they're out there, and I think that that's probably the right choice for other parents. I know that if, for example, you have a teenager who stays home alone, and for whatever reason you've come not to trust that child, then I think that that can be an effective way to allow them some limited access. But I think that it's better and more useful for people to monitor their small children and to set clear guidelines for their older children so that the children will know exactly how to behave. It's part of the introduction, I think, into being an adult, is to learning to take responsibility and to learning the difference between right and wrong.
Well, let's get Max and Erica involved in this discussion. Max is 9 years old. Erica is 7. Max and Erica, how often do you use the computer to log on to the internet?
Well, we use it quite quite often. I think it's for education, but my sister Erica, she thinks it's practically for just playing around in games, sort of like a board game.
You sound...
No.
What do you use it for?
I use it just to surf.
Mm-hmm. What do you look for when you go on the net?
Pretty much anything. I usually look for stuff that interests me most, like stuff that has to do with water or something.
Cartoon page that you visited?
Yeah.
Which one was that you liked?
I liked the web page I liked the most is the Sherman page.
The Sherman page, Sherman's Lagoon?
Mm-hmm. Max, you know, you sound very intelligent. What sites do you surf when you go on the net?
Well, I like space, but I surf a lot of things on the net. Like NASA pages, all sorts of stuff.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break here, Max, Erica, Barry, and Michelle, but we want to this discussion with our guests right after the break. You're watching NBC.
Imagine your you breaking stories, local news and weather, scores of your favorite teams, stock prices, or deliver only the news that interests you. Now it can with MSNBC's personal front page. MSNBC on the Internet's personal toolkit. Get all the news, or only the news you want, delivered the way you want it. MSNBC on the Internet's personal toolkit. Free from the leading site on the web. Log on to MSNBC.com and get your world your way.
0.02 of a second. A human eye begins to blink. A hummingbird flicks its wings once. The sensor in the door frame tells an airbag in a seat to deploy. Because when it comes to your safety, every 100th of a second counts. The 1997 Lexus LS 4.
So it was your brother who referred you to American Express Financial Advisors.
Planning is a concept that we pioneered about 20 years ago.
We're managing over $100 billion in assets.
You got a long time till retirement. I'd take a more aggressive position. And when things change, we'll make some adjustments.
We've got 2 million clients, so you won't be alone here.
For a financial plan that can help you do more, call 1-800-GET-ADVICE.
I think American healthcare has a great... I'm Arthur Leibowitz, and I'm Chief Medical Officer for Aetna U.S. Healthcare. People should expect that their healthcare company will give them the opportunity to get the care that they need. If somebody has an Aetna U.S. Healthcare membership card in their wallet, they should feel secure. They should know that behind them is a company absolutely committed to make sure they get the best care. Quality of care is the most important thing to us.
Aetna U.S. Healthcare. You'll feel better with us.
Helen's back would hurt. She'd take 2 Tylenol, but hours later she'd have to take more. Her doctor said try Aleve.
I can take just 2 Aleve. With Tylenol, I was taking up to 8.
Aleve works up to 12 hours.
Aleve. All day strong, all day long. Subscribe to the Wall Street Journal and get our free personal finance. That's 10 weeks of the journal and the software for just $3.90 per week. Call 800-391-0707. That's 800-391-0707.
Children don't know who they're talking to in these chat rooms. Little 12-year-old Melissa could easily be 75-year-old molester, and these very clever people will do anything to lure these children out of their bedrooms, across state lines, and into the bedrooms of the pedophiles. So I think it's very important for children not to trade private information. Certainly there's enough of that going on as it is in our society, but children start telling their names, who they are, what their dreams are, what their emotions are, where they live, into an awful lot of trouble very, very quickly.
That was Mark Klass talking about the dangers kids can get into when they're online. Klass has been an outspoken advocate for kids. Polly was kidnapped and murdered in 1993. Once again, we are joined by Barry and Michelle Fagan and their 2 kids. Barry, Michelle, the death of Mr. Klass did not have anything to do with the net. but do you think he's right about all those dangers out there?
I think what he's saying is true in that it's possible to have those kind of things. It's really important that we focus on the big picture. The kind of sensationalistic things that are being talked about here are a very tiny, minuscule, almost non-existent fraction of what the Internet is all about, and I think it's really important to keep that in mind.
You know, I wanted to ask more questions of Max and Erica. Max, all this talk about the government sort of controlling what you can see on the Internet, on Twitter, what do you think about that?
Well, I think my parents are right.
Why?
Governments and Supreme Court have nothing to do with this. I mean, if some parents say, oh, these kids can't see this, that's fine. But if our parents say, you could see this, and you could see whatever you like as long as it's okay, I think that's fine.
So you know better than to put in your name and your telephone number and your address when you're online, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Erica?
I think the same as Max, that the government doesn't have the right to tell us what to do.
Barry, Michelle, you know, there are a lot of parents out there who think otherwise than you do in terms of censoring the net. How do you allay those parents' fears in terms of their kids becoming possible victims?
I can understand that they're afraid because it's something new and it's something that they haven't done before. And they've heard so much about the horror stories. So they're very worried, and they're not really sure. Their kids know more about the computer than they do, so they're very worried. But frankly, the answer to that is not the kind of legislation that we're talking about here. Some of those parents now think, fine, they have the CDA, we don't have to worry about it anymore. But there's really nothing that the United States government can do about overseas things, which is where most of the information that children have access to comes from. So I don't want those parents to think that this legislation is going to solve this problem for them, because it's not. The problem is still going to be out there, and these parents need as they can to help their kids in this new realm. And if that means taking the keyboard and locking it in the trunk of their car when they go away, well, then that may be necessary. There's all sorts of low-tech solutions, and there's all sorts of high-tech solutions. And I think that there's a solution for every household. And I hope that parents don't abandon their responsibility in this, because the more parents turn over their responsibility to the government, I think the less well children are going to be raised.
Barry, real quickly here, what other besides parental responsibility in about 20 seconds?
Well, blocking software, of course, is very good. There's lots of different blocking software out there, some of which says you can only connect to these sites.